Hello. Thank you for being here. I'm just getting the Zoom and the Facebook Live thing set up because I want to take you on a tour. So I need to screen share. So that's the deal. So let's just chat. There should be some information in the text box, but I want to start out by saying that I don't think it's any secret that we're living in a world that is constantly telling us to do more, have more, be more. And it's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of activity and lose sight of what it means to be healthy on every level. So that would be like a mental level, emotional level, physical, and spiritual. And the ideal is to have all of those parts of ourselves integrated and aligned with our higher presence, our higher self, because that's actually where we get to have access to our health and our wholeness. And a lot of people think that health is about, looking good and fitting into a certain size or shape and eating the right diet or doing the right exercise. And there's nothing wrong with any of those things. But I've discovered in my 30 years in being an integrative practitioner that it's actually a lot more than that. And there's much more depth to this conversation of what it means to be healthy than we actually realize. We know it in our heart, but in our head, it's a little bit more on the surface level. True wholeness goes beyond just our physical appearance. It includes all aspects of who we are as human beings. And we're kind of in a point in human history where we're awakening to discover how much that actually means. And that's a good thing. I don't mean how much in terms of it being overwhelming, but like, how important it is, how much there is to that. So the truth is, none of us are truly healthy if we don't feel good, both or, all together emotionally, and we feel like we're thriving mentally and spiritually, and that we're functioning, like all of our physicality is functioning in a good way. So at Sacred Health Academy, we believe in the commitment to a journey over quick fixes, because we know that it's the journey that helps us unfold into this wholeness rather than reaching for the quick fixes all the time. An integrative and sacred approach that helps you achieve lasting transformation through lifestyle changes that include cultivating daily connection with your life force and nutrition and joyful movement and stress management and sort of managing the monkey mind and hormonal balance, emotional healing, and creative expression. All of those come together in a way that give us the capacity to activate and tap into this cellular blueprint that is in every single one of us, in every one of our trillions of cells. And we've just never been taught what it means to activate that, right? And we do all this through education and connection and truth with a simple focus on your whole self instead of just symptoms, so that you can learn how to make these long-term transformations that lead to the true health and wellness of your entire life, really. It's happening for women in our academy at this very moment. Maybe you'd like to be one of them. A warm hello and welcome to you listening live or on the replay today. Thank you so much for joining. It's really good to be with you, and feel free to grab, a cup of tea. I'm actually having more of a cool beverage today with lemon and green tea because it's summer. So there's that. And as you know, we're here in a virtual world. So if you do have any questions in the comment box, put a capital Q in front of your question. So I'll make sure to, when I go back after our live, I'll go back and check it out and make sure I don't miss anything. And then if you have any hearts or emojis or anything you'd like to toss around, please do. That just makes it feel like we're all more connected. And I have in the description box, if it's not there yet, it will be after the live is over. But if you want to go with me, because we're going to go on a tour, a virtual tour through the campus of the Sacred Health Academy. And so the URL for that is www.sacredhealthacademy.com. You won't be able to get into all the places that I take us through, but you can at least go check it out there. If we've not yet met, I'm Laurie Morse, a 30-year practitioner of Chinese medicine and director of the Sacred Health Academy, where we teach spiritual women struggling with fatigue, pain, or stress how to awaken her birthright of sacred health. And yes, that is a real thing, and it's important to get aware of that, right? Because that's really the only way that I have discovered over the decades. And I'm not the only one, so this isn't just my my fantasy, but it's activating our sacred, our spiritual and sacred aspects is really the way to tap into the health that we all have in as part of our blueprint. It's part of our design. But if we leave, I've watched over the years that and because I work with a lot of women, I'll just say women. I don't, I, I'm sure this happens with men too, but we have our spiritual thing over here, and then we have our our work stuff here, and then we have our family and friends life, and what we're trying to, and we have our health on in another little category. And what we're trying to do, we don't, I mean, I say try, what we do is we align all of those things with our spirit, our connection to spirit or source, or whatever word you like to, the universe, reference when you think about this connection that is beating your heart and pumping your blood right now. When we bring all that into alignment, then all of these parts work better. And so we focus on health, but all these other aspects of our life and elements are part of what we get to enjoy, evolving ourselves and making better as well. So if I could magically flip a switch in your thinking, it would be for you to know this, that I would want for you to wake up every day and know that it is your design to be vital, healthy, pain-free, creative, connected, able to give and receive love, without a lot of blockage and judgment and twisted stuff that we end up kind of tripping over, and abundance in all things that allow for you to thrive. And if that were the case, how would you like to enjoy each day that you wake up like that? Like, that's a beautiful question. So, and what I know is that when more people live from that foundation, it will be world changing. So each of us just doing our own part of aligning ourselves in a sacred way and tending that day in and day out, is the contribution to make to shifting the world and making the way the world works a better place. So there are 6 stages to cultivating sacred health. Not that those are the only stages, but it gives us a framework to walk along. I like to think of it as a labyrinth walk. And we call this your sacred health success path, because if you stay the course, however fast or slow you walk or go or put one foot in front of the other, if you just keep putting one foot in front of the other and keep moving forward, then you will have success, right? Because all of those small steps, all of the small changes that happen along that pathway add up to big results. And I see it over and over. It happens to women all the time or for women all the time. So, if that sounds appealing to you, then you might want to become one of those women too. And then doing that without just continuing to put one foot in front of the other will awaken this inborn blueprint for health and wholeness, no matter what age or condition you're in. And how can I say that? You might be wondering. I've said it, just a few sentences ago. It's because it's in our design. It's a blueprint. We have upwards of 50 trillion cells that make up our body. Inside every single one of those cells are 50 trillion atoms, and inside every atom is an electron, and that electron holds our blueprint. It's cellular intelligence for the design of health. That is a lot of health and wholeness in terms of a blueprint, right? So what we do is we do the work to sort of like unpeel the way we thought it has needed to be, kind of just let that peel back, if you will, and then do the work of activating. And I say work, I mean, it's actually harder to be unwell and unhealthy than it is to do, this work. So one step at a time along the path, in community. I made up my mind a long time ago, probably 30 years ago now, that since this is the way it appears it goes, this, this walking the path in a sacred way, so to speak. And, it's easier some days than others, of course, but it's harder, like I said, to be unhealthy. Since this is the way it is, I'm going to make it enjoyable and I'm going to make it fun, and I'm going to bring creativity along so that it can be, there can be outlets, and it can just be a lot easier than it otherwise needs to be. So, um, that's what I love to invite women to consider. So a woman who is looking toward or in her second half of life, I'm 60. We don't have time. I don't feel like I have time to waste anymore, right? Like, so the old excuses of I don't have time to do this work doesn't really hold water anymore, right? So let's take a tour of the academy together. So it means I need to share my screen. So just give me a moment to sort of get that together for us. So we can go backstage, so to speak. Let me get that. Okay, so share. And okay, we're sharing our screen, so I don't need that actually. So this is kind of like the starting place, if you will. We take confidentiality serious. There's a specific syllabus, so everything is clear and laid out. There's both a private Facebook page, but I know a lot of people don't like Facebook, so I'll show you what the other option is. There's the success path, which I should probably give you guys a copy of that. Actually, I will put that in the as a link in the comments afterwards, or in this description. And then this is just how you can share sacred health with others. But let's go inside. Let's go like in the campus, if you will. This is where we start. And so so we're starting here. I'll come back to some of this, but we have a weekly live call. So that's for questions, just to sort of talk over some of the concepts and ideas, because the conversation inside of this academy and along this sacred health path expands your awareness. It expands your perspective of how life and health and connection to source and the universe actually work. So it's actually a spiritual journey alongside it being a coming to health journey. So, that's kind of a cool thing to know. So we have this internal forum. It's very private. It doesn't have to do with Facebook. So questions can be asked there too, in case, doing Facebook isn't your thing. And I'll come back to this research library or resource library. So everything is laid out. We have, this is a very step-by-step journey, and it's based on the 5 elements because we are an extension of nature. That's one of the other names or addresses you could use for the source of life or life force or spirit or the universe is nature, just, nature, because we are literally an extension of nature. So, we have all of the elements as part of us. And so inside each element, it's broken down into different stages. And we literally just, you go through and learn what each of the elements mean. And you come to center, which is always going to be you. And you learn everything about that center for yourself. And then you make decisions that, yes, I am going to walk this journey, right? And let me see if I can open this up a little bit more. And so, yeah, here it is. And so, oh, is that it? Oh, I see. I have to go down here. So let me just, yeah. So we have codes of principles. These are life principles, not personal principles, right? We have the understanding of what it means to be in the world with a whole other spiritual realm available to us to draw upon, for healing and transformation. We learn about our I am presence, our higher presence. That's really, that connection is part of what aligns us with our wholeness, if you will. We go through our sacred why. Oops, what did I put? Oh, we go through the value of gratitude. I mean, these are all done in weekly bite-sized chunks. So I don't want you to feel like, oh my God, this is too much for me, which I would understand. But in bite-sized chunks, it's very eatable, if you will. You don't go to a buffet and put every single thing in the buffet on your plate. You take what you can eat and then go back for more, or come back another day or something like that. So that's how we have this all sort of created, and the curriculum is all very, very um, well designed, I guess we can say. We go through values, your health story. There are things in our culture that we don't realize that cause us to make choices in a certain way, or have beliefs around that aren't actually real, or I mean they're real but they're not true, right? They may be true because they feel true because we're living them, but they aren't the ultimate truth, if you will. So we break all that down so that you have like a spaciousness inside of you for a new consideration about what it means for you to be healthy in your life, right? And we also go through very, very in a sort of detailed way nutrition, because of course that what we eat becomes who we are. And so and I don't subscribe to like any particular diet like it is in just the mainstream, but I do know how important it is for us to eat a lot of real food, right? So we do talk about that, and whether you have animal protein as part of your path or you do not, it's workable either way in the way we break down nutrition. And sugar, that's just one element that we try to sort of keep at a low or very modest, or none. I don't eat any sugar anymore, so. Um, and it's just mainly because of the havoc it wreaks on our system. And as we gather our years, it's just harder for our body to navigate with that. So there's an invitation for a 10-day sugar-free detox. That's what this part is. And then we go through our emotional landscape, if you will, what it means to forgive ourselves or another, what it means to navigate through duality on our planet. What I mean by duality is like, of course, we have night and day, up and down. Those are like the polar opposites that kind of keep the capacity for us to be in the physical plane uh, activated, if you will. But we also have duality in our own systems, mostly in our mind. We have, being angry and sad, or, love, hate, or all of those kinds of things that we play tug of war with inside of ourselves. And there's a way to bring those pieces that are true for all of us as human beings, to bring them to rest in a way where they're not constantly warring inside of us, if you will. And there's some beautiful, graceful processes for that we take you through. We also, let me show you this. I want to show you that we have, actually, I should show you this well, let me just do it this way. We have, as you can see, quite a few, they're called creative health processes. These are things like it could be as easy for you as coloring in a coloring book, because each of the pages that are offered are like just a printer page. So you could color that like a coloring book, or you could take it a little further. And I show you how to do that. And so just so you understand why I jumped to this, one of the best ways to release emotional energy is through creative health processes. And so it's just one of the ways that you can use color and, a bit of enjoyment and release, so it's not as dense and heavy as sometimes emotional releases can be. So this is a whole list of options that you would have available to you to play with in order to do some of that emotional release in a more graceful, easeful way, right? So, that's kind of a fun thing. And then in the resource library, I just wanted to show you that we have, for each stage that you're in, and for the most part, each stage it happens within a month's time. So this is a 6 to 12 month journey because there's a tier 1 of 6 months, there's a tier 2 of 6 months, and then there's people who continue to stay on just because there's so much available, there's so much that moves, there's so many things to tend to, and we get to what we get to because life is what life is, and then we come back, and it's like having a Netflix subscription. You can't watch all the movies on Netflix in 3 months, but you can keep coming back and make a list and remind yourself what you really do want to watch, that kind of thing. So that's kind of how we have it all set up. Anyway, there's just all kinds of extra resources for to support you through each of the stages you're in along the path. And then we also have, this is a really cool thing, it's called the Mind Medicine Vault, and it's a whole, well, it's a vault. I kind of like that word, of videos. You'll see over here, there's videos, there's audios, and then there's like PDF downloads. And this is all to help you get your mind aligned with health, right? Because it's really, our mind is like the gatekeeper. And that's where we actually have to kind of do the work of getting our mind right, kind of ferreting out old beliefs, old thinking, things that don't serve us anymore at the mental level. Because honestly, you may or may not know this, but the instant we have a thought, there is a response in our brain, and then that response instantly releases chemistry in our body. And so having having a more directive, being more directive, so this is using your willpower, so to speak, in the only way it was designed to be used, which is to direct your mind to connection and to right thinking, right? So we have all kinds of audios that are, you can download and put on your smartphone or whatever. But I mean, some of this won't make sense, but it's very specific for making your journey work, right? Like we kind of freak out when we notice a symptom, don't we? We're like, and most people run to Google and kind of freak themselves out for what could be going wrong. And there's just all kinds of ways to redirect our mind and to rewire our brain. That's really what this whole Mind Medicine Vault is about, is to rewire and recode and redirect the brain tracks that don't serve us anymore, and then rewire them to in the direction of what is higher and more serving and more evolved for where we are as human beings now. So much of what we've been wired towards is old programming, and we're all stepping out of that. And so just having the tools to do that a little bit easier is really, really a big deal, I find. So there's just all kinds of options that you have in this particular vault. We've got, just on and on it goes. And then there's, specific downloads that just help you understand. It's that idea that we when we layer our learning, because the mind learns by repetition, that we know for sure. There's so much research on and neuroscience understanding on how our mind works, and then how our mind actually causes our body to work and express and function, and that can be for good or for not. And so we're really, really tending in this whole experience to activating the aspects of our higher wisdom, our higher intelligence, our higher cellular function, so that we can operate in the design that we were born into. I know I keep saying that, but that's the blueprint that I'm referencing. So anyway, and then I already mentioned, but we have a live call every month. It happens on Zoom. It's very interactive, like people ask questions, and there's a whole, there's a whole year and a half or more worth of older calls. Oh, the other thing I was going to show you real quick, and then we can kind of move ourselves along here. But one of the things that it is sometimes, like if you listen to a call, like let's just say you listen to one of these calls, or maybe it's any number of these something in the resource library maybe, or one of the Mind Medicine Vault videos or audios, and you remember hearing something, but you didn't write it down, or you didn't catch it, you can actually go to this part in the Academy, and you can put the words that you do remember in here, and then the system will bring up everything that was that included those words for you, and exactly where it is in the video or the audio, and take you right there. So that's a beautiful tool to be able to enjoy. So I think that is the long and the short of it. Make sure I showed you everything. So let me just stop sharing my screen. And oh, this is kind of fun. This is what, oh, I already showed you that. Okay. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so we can go back to, okay, so that is, the long and the short of the Academy. So if you want more information on, how it works, all written up for you, then you can go to www.sacredhealthacademy.com, and that will give you more info. So, I'd love to hear from you what nuggets that you got from our time together. Like, is it news that walking the journey, a sacred health journey, is also a spiritual path? Is it news to you that you have coded in every one of your cells a blueprint for wholeness? I mean, I don't, I'd love to hear from you what feels like news to you or an aha that you got for your own self, or sake, for your own sake. And let me know in the comments, and we can have a little chat about it. So, and I will be back next week, and of course every Wednesday at 9. And next week we're going to actually be talking about, we're going to kind of do some boots on the ground, brass tacks conversation, and we're going to talk about digestive enzymes and probiotics, and the difference between the two, because I've watched over the years how that's not clear in some people's minds, and why they matter. But what we'll do also is focus on our microbiome, which is the probiotic part of the conversation. The digestive enzyme part will be kind of short and quick, but the microbiome conversation is vital for us to have. That our microbiome is like a super highway of conductivity and intelligent messaging between our endocrine system, our neurotransmitters, our immune system. There's just so much that the microbiome does. And of course, science is learning more and more. You've probably been catching wind of some or all of it. I don't know how much you read. I'm obsessed. I'm kind of a health nerd, science research nerd on all this stuff. So it's very fun for me, and it's easy for me to sort of break it down into bite-sized chunks for you to just know what that means to you, and take the right steps for yourself. So as a reminder, a sacred health journey is yours to take. I'm here. It's my sort of like life purpose to make sure you don't miss your heart calling you home to your health. And it can just be one step at a time. And one step at a time on this path gets you more energy, less pain, less stress and worry. That's like a given if you put one foot in front of the other. Maybe the nutritional lifestyle that you've been trying to make work in your world. And best of all, your birthright of peace and purpose, all without having to spend too much time, too much money on therapies and supplements and toxic chemicals. But just knowing that with health, life is beautiful. And without it, it's really hard. And like I like to say, it kind of sucks. So, especially because we know it's our design to be well. So thank you for being you, because it matters that when you tend to your sacred health, it matters to you, of course, because you feel better, but it also matters and adds to the world. So until next week, be well, be sacred, and most important, go put yourself on this path. Put yourself on this, in this journey. Go to the Sacred Health Academy, sacredhealthacademy.com. Learn how to activate your personal medicine. This does become very personal medicine. How to awaken your inner healer. Learn how to manage your mind and heal your emotions. And best of all, to elevate your connection and relationship with your higher self. This is just a part that's vital. And what last thing I'll say is that even when we think we have a good relationship or that we're connected with our higher self. There's always more. There's greater connection, deeper connection, and more vast connection to pull into our systems to make our lives work better. And I guess that's the best thing I can say about it. So I hope that I hope to see you inside. I hope to see you on campus. And until next week, be well and be sacred.